Alright, this video is by an individual by the name of Richard Cooper, and some even refer to him as the single mother expert. I'm gonna do a breakdown analysis, I guess, of this video just because it's so interesting. Here we go.
I have to flick some boogers at single mommies because Anthony really wanted me to. I'm not going to do it myself this time. Last year's video, you can check it out. But do not LTR a single mommy. Played them. That's it. Don't date them. Don't LTR.
What LTR stands for, just in case you don't know what that is, and to save you a little bit of time from Google, LTR means long-term relationship. So what he's saying here is do not long-term relationship a single mother. Here we go.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some opportunities to check out some comments from some people that have commented in my most popular video, or one of my most popular videos. There's like, I don't know, 10,000 comments. So I pulled a few out. We'll just highlight a few of them. This guy over here, no ability to appreciate anything I do for them. If I am in the middle of doing something for them, they are sweet. If I am not, I'm a piece of furniture or a piece of electronics that they turn on or off. It's tough. 100% correct. Was with a single mom for 17 years, and it was a constant battle, and I was never right, and she basically wouldn't cooperate with me on anything and always chose her son's bad behavior over me. I gave it my all, and it made no difference. This guy over here says, has to be the stupidest thing I've ever done. This guy, there's some cold hard truth right over here. Simon says, seriously, if anybody here needs another reason not to date a single mom, hear this. Dude, you're raising somebody else's kid. What the fuck is wrong with you? Your genes will go extinct. Your name will disappear, while the dude's genes and name will continue on. Just thinking about that drives me crazy. This one over here. This one hurt me when I broke up with my single mommy. After the relationship ended, I swore that I would never date a woman with kids again. Worst thing was I got really attached to her kids her girls, and after we broke up, you never see them again. They're not your kids. You're just an accessory.
Some very important things to take into consideration here. Now, this sounds like slander or hate speech, I'm sure, to some of these females that are going to be watching this because they don't understand the concept of what's going on here. And of course to the beta males that don't either. But what that one guy said was very important. And you don't think of these things biologically when you're, pursuing a relationship with another individual. But you're more or less cucking yourself. You're making yourself go extinct. Because it's not your genes, it's not your kids, it's not your biological anything that are being passed down. It's the loser that she was with that gets his legacy to live on. Not yours. You're literally cucking yourself, biologically speaking. Especially if you don't have a child with her later down the road or anything like that. You're cucking yourself biologically. Yikes. While at the same time making yourself, your lineage, your history, your everything go extinct. White knights, I'm sure, will try to fight this, and defend it all they want, but reality doesn't change for anyone. Facts are facts, whether you like them or not. Furthermore, what the other guy there said about, becoming attached to the children, I've seen that happen so many times. They try so hard to play dad to kids that aren't theirs, and they put so much time, effort, and money, blood, sweat, tears, for these kids, right? But as soon as that mom's gone out of his life, so are those damn children. So you get a double heartbreak there. You get hurt twice times over, and it's not a fun time. It's not good, and it's just a terrible thing to go through, and I wouldn't wish that upon anyone. I'm glad I never had to deal with anything like that, because I don't have a emotional, or whatever you want to call it, attachment to children who aren't mine. So that was very important for him to point out, and I'm glad that he did. Anyway.
Do not LTR or marry a single mommy. Single mothers. I'm going to hit on single mothers for a bit because not a lot of people talk about it. I came out of a 3-year relationship with a single mother last couple of years. This is a meme that somebody sent me that I kind of chuckled at, but I'm not going to read it off. You can see it there for yourself. I'll leave it up for a sec. But there's truth in every joke. Okay. When you see these stand-up comics up on stage telling their jokes, the reason why they're funny is because there's elements of truth in them. Okay, so when you see stuff like that, you got to think about it. The thing about single moms is you're going to end up with double, triple, quadruple the heartbreak. This ex of mine had a couple boys, and when you spend time playing Halo with little Timmy and zeroing the scope in on the BB gun of Billy, and you take trips and you do the blended family stuff, when she goes, they go too. You'll never see them again. And even though they might have driven you absolutely nuts, you have like double or triple the heartbreak when you deal with somebody like that.
Again, he pointed out exactly what I was saying before. Regardless if you don't like that kid, like the kid, or anything, if you spend enough time with someone, you will have some sort of attachment to them, unless you're like me where just don't, you know. But most people will eventually have some sort of attachment to them, some sort of emotional bonding, whether it be spiritual, mental, emotional, whatever. You know, just having all those good times and those good memories stuck in their head, and then, you know, knowing that you won't have that again and you're gonna miss them, and it's gonna be double or triple or more the heartbreak on your end when she leaves you or whatever the case. So again, I'm glad that he's bringing this up.
It's also very easy for them to end the relationship because I've done it once. At my age, I was dating mostly divorced women. 7 or 8 out of 10 women are divorced because they initiate the divorces. So it's very easy for them to move along and just, you know, slide into the next relationship.
Again, another solid point. Questionable judgment skills, aka the men that they chose to be with before you, right? So, you know, it's just like that classic example of the cheerleader looking down at the nerd like, ha! You're not good enough for me, and only gets with the douchebags and the losers of life. And then when they're 30 with 3 kids and single and hurting for money and so on and so forth, then they're just like, oh, now you're totally good enough for me. And by this point, she's been used up and all sorts of everything under the sun, bad wise. She's got fucked up in the head issues. She's got multiple kids that aren't yours. She isn't as attractive as she used to be. She's made very questionable choices and decisions in her life throughout that span before she decided to be like, hey, I want to be with you now. And it's just overall a showing of their intellect, their critical thinking skills, and so on and so forth when it comes to anything in regard to, you know, thought process and judgment and so on and so forth. If she had good judgment, good intellectual critical thinking, she would have got with you back then instead of after she's been used up by half the city and is fucked up in the head and so on and so forth. So, very good point yet again.
They have questionable judgment skills. You talk to single moms that have been divorced, you'll hear all kinds of stories from them about why they got married, the children, why they made all these decisions and choices. And after a while, you'll start to ask yourself, that's pretty questionable, and I don't see you taking a lot of ownership on whatever it was that you contributed to that.
That's another good point as well that I left out. A lot of times, they won't take ownership for their part, their end of why things went bad and why the relationship ended and why they got divorced. And you will question,
You'll never be a priority. You'll come in behind the kids, the cat, the dog, the extracurriculars, the parent-student nights. You're like 5th or 6th, you know, the tree that needs to get removed in the backyard sort of thing. You're not going to be a priority. You know, save yourself for somebody else that has the capacity and the time.
Solid fucking point. Solid fucking point. Because it's a fact. I mean, you can ask other married individuals who have kids, biologically even. Is the husband ever a priority? Hell, is even the wife ever a priority? Nope. It all revolves around the kid. And rightfully it should, of course. You know, you want that kid to turn out good, so you're going to prioritize your time towards that child, right? Makes sense. I can respect that and understand that. But as a single male individual, possibly without your own kids, you're going to want to be the priority. Or at least of some sort of important, above all else, you know. Because you want to build a life together with this individual, presumably. And you don't want all that time just going towards the kid. You want me time. You and her time, as it were. Whatever you want to call it. And ultimately, you're just on the back burner until she needs you. Or whatever the case may be. So another solid fucking point. Be with someone who can truly prioritize you until you are both ready to prioritize a child in your life.
They think the world is going to revolve around her and her kids. She's emotionally unavailable. I talked about the amount of fucks that you have in your day to give, the things that are truly fuckworthy. Well, single moms have kids. They're going to take up a lot of their time and resources. Most single moms have custody of their children more than the men. Okay? So they're going to have to deal with a lot of parenting issues. Mothers tend to dote over their children more than men do. Men are kind of more like, let me teach you how to deal with this sort of thing. And mothers are like, are you okay? You know, are you shitting properly? Are you eating well? And all this sort of stuff. I'm in my 40s. My mom still mothers me. They eat up a lot of time and resources. You can even ask married men in this room what it's like to be married, and you'll start to recognize after a while that a lot of energy and resources, even in married couples where they have the children together, is eaten up, with the mother spending time with the kids.
Another excellent point to compound on top of not being a priority. She is a very generally self-centered person, given the nature of being a single mom. It does revolve around her and the kids, so she's going to have that very self-centered type of attitude of, it revolves around me and the kids, and you're just there's someone to help out. So again, a very, very solid point in everything he's saying is fucking spot on, dead on, perfect aim, perfect shot, perfect placement, perfect wording. Everything he's saying is true and right. Anyway.
They're not yours. Emotionally unavailable, her kids will work against you. They're not intentionally trying to do this, but even your presence in that relationship, you're pissing on the flame of reconciliation between the two parents, whether they choose to acknowledge it or not. Okay? Even if you're a stand-up virtuous guy, you can bend over backwards and do everything under the sun for them. Your presence is still pissing on the flame of reconciliation the way they see it, depending on what their age is, especially if they're younger.
That is very, very true as well. I mean, this is one of the things that Hollywood and lots of other movie makers get right. Whether it's television, movies, Hollywood, indie, whatever you want to call it. It's a very basic trope in any sort of storyline. There's a stepdad and the biological to the mother, daughter or son absolutely hates the stepdad, whether it is with good reason, like he's abusive and alcoholic, or without good reason. He's the perfect stepdad, but I hate him because he's not my dad. Not my real dad. That basic trope. It's usually one of those. But either way, he was spot on with that, because I see that, again, way too often. These guys are trying so hard to be the perfect stepdad and do everything that he can, for this child, and he just gets shit on for it. No matter how good he does, no matter what he does, he just gets shit on. And then, of course, the younger they are, the less they understand. So they're naturally going to be confused on it, and generally they're going to have a negative outcome because you fear what you don't know kind of thing comes into play. And as a teenager, of course, they're already going through high school, middle school, whatever. And then on top of that, you don't have your real dad, and so you're going to act out on top of that too. It's just a whole fuckery of mess that you shouldn't really have to deal with, to be quite honest with you. So, another good point, Richard.
They have a distorted self-image. All you have to do is go on any dating app. See single moms in there, they think they're a 10 when they're like a 6. Everybody's had that experience, I'm sure.
Plenty of Fish, POF. Tinder, anyone? Match.com. I think those are the 3 popular ones nowadays. Yeah, you ever go on any of those 3? I need not say anymore, because those that know, oh, do they know how true and valid that is. Again, Richard punching a hole into reality and making sure everybody knows about it. Man, that truth. Man, that reality. Just because it's a bad thing doesn't mean it isn't true.
They don't take a lot of ownership for the mistakes that happen in their life. And it's 100% investment with 0% ROI. At least with my own daughter, what I invest in her, I get something back. I'm invested in my own lineage, okay? You don't get anything back invested in some other man's children.
Again, he is spot on with that, on both those things. Rarely taking ownership. Again, females have this inherent trait and characteristic of not being able to take responsibility or accountability for anything. Unless it's something good, then they're just like overly compensate, overly exaggerate their importance and how they did it. Like, oh yeah, I'm the savior of the world because I did this. But if it's something bad, they're like, no, it was the man's fault. All men are pig. Any excuse and any sort of anything to have them out of responsibility, out of the, you know, the lane, as it were, of responsibility, because they always push it on someone. It's always someone else's fault. It's always his fault, her fault, their fault, this person's fault, but it's never her fault. That is a very, very valid point. Whether it's relationships, friendships, any sort of interpersonal, anything to do with females, they are the last people who will take accountability and responsibility for anything that is negative. And I'm starting to think maybe it really is some sort of like genetic trait or something. I just can't figure that out yet, but it really does seem that way. This is, of course, not to every single literal female, because I have met at least 2 females in my 29 years of living, 2 females who will admit their faults and take responsibility and accountability. 2 out of 29 years of knowing females and men and so on and so forth. 29 years, and I've only ever found 2 females, 2, who ever authentically admit that, you know what, I fucked up. You know what, I did wrong. That truly take accountability and responsibility for their actions and what they do and what they say. Dear God. So anyway, that was a very awesome video for me to discover, and I just randomly discovered that. I wasn't even looking for it. It just randomly popped up. I was like, huh, Richard Cooper, the single mother expert. I wonder what this is going to be. I, in fact, actually clicked on that video with the intention on thinking it was sort of white knight beta male that was trying to defend females, and then I saw his, pinpoint presentation. I was like, okay, alright, this guy's living in the world of reality. Alright. Again, this is not to say that all females are bad and blah blah blah, mass generalization, fallacy bullshit. There are good females out there and blah blah blah, but there is not enough people like Richard Cooper and myself and the few others out there, such as Ava Brighton, calling females out on their shit. Whether it's gynocentrism, double standards, hypocrisy, contradictory nature, not taking responsibility and accountability for their actions, you name it. There's not enough people fucking calling them out for that shit. And that's why females are such shitty people nowadays, because no one's saying, no, don't do that, stop that, etc., etc. They're just becoming spoiled fucking brats because of the culture and society that we live in nowadays. So, tops off to Richard Cooper for being brave enough to not be one of those white knight beta male bitches and actually call them out on their shit and really, piece by piece, pinpoint by pinpoint, absolutely destroying them with truth and reality. Until next time.